Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Mullen High School Broadcast Network. Garage Talks, Episode 3. It's here. It's Spencer Dempsey, Aiden Bress. First thing we're going to talk about today, on the road, Malden last week. Tough loss against Gaffney. Aiden, tell me a little bit about what we saw there.
I say like we said last week, it was really weird situation. We ended up playing Thursday night instead of Friday night because Hurricane Florence was on the way, and we ended up no rain at all during that game. So it ended up good call by Greenville County for overall for that one. But as for the game itself, final score 27-9 in favor of the Gaffney Indians. Is like we mentioned previewing it, they're huge. They're a very good team. State 5A football runs through them, and they really showed it in that game. And I think the biggest thing, though, is they came in number 4 in the state, but Malden looked really good overall in the game. They moved the football well on offense. We saw a whole lot of different variations of offense, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the defense really held this Gaffney offense in check was what I really like to see. And even special teams, Ben Doherty ended up not playing, but it was great to see Aldemar Jimenez step up, actually made a field goal during the game, had some great punts that really changed the game, because we've had tough situations where field position ended up being crucial in our games, but we ended up doing very well in special teams in this one. But overall, I think it was a really good performance by the Mavs, and one that, yeah, you're mad you didn't win, but it was a good game overall.
Overall, yeah, I mean, you have to pick and choose where you look, though, because you definitely had some questionable calls officiating that didn't go Malden's way that factored in. You definitely there was some plays that just got away from Malden defensively. There was a lot of tough breaks for Malden offensively. There was a lot of times that we didn't finish drives the way we would like to. Carelessness with the football. So overall, Malden did a decent job of holding on to the football. They weren't able to put points on the board, though. What really matters in a football game, to beat the opponent, you have to put points on the board, and finishing drives just wasn't something that you saw happen a lot.
But I think the biggest thing, though, is like when we say they moved the football, they were down to I think it was the 15-yard line. So Malden came out in this new formation. I was calling it the full house because it looked like a full house, but Spencer corrected me, it's called the flex. They came out in that. They really moved football really well, had a whole lot of moving parts to it. Mitchell Norman was the spearhead, the leader of that formation, and they had a whole lot of different guys running the ball and having blocking, a whole lot of different schemes you saw through that formation. But that one drive, like in the first half, we had 2 drives. I think it was back-to-back, where we went the entire field. We got down to like their 15-yard line, and then a penalty came. I think it was an illegal shift, pushed us back 15 yards.
Yeah, it was. There was illegal shifts. There was false starts that really just because when you throw in a formation like that, that's new to the team. This is your first time running it the whole season. I believe probably the first time running it for like anybody that's on the team really seeing that formation.
Oh yeah,
and that's the first time that you're running it, and now you're getting everybody used to it, and there's just careless mistakes.
I think the biggest thing, though, is like with those penalties, is we ended up, it was one of the craziest things I've seen. It was a 4th down, I believe it was 34, and we were at the 36-yard line.
Yeah.
And it was a crazy thing for me to see, and we ended up actually going for it and just chucking it up in the end zone. But I think the biggest thing in that, and then it happened again, like I was saying, they moved down the field, they had a holding, pushed them back, and then it just seemed like nothing, once we got to their side, nothing just clicked, where I think that's going to be a big thing in the upcoming weeks is finishing those drives, and especially I think the biggest thing was shooting themselves in the foot, because you look, if they would have scored those 2 drives, even if you could have got points, period, like not even in the end zone, you get one in the end zone, maybe even you're neck and neck with them, because halftime it was a really back and forth football game. It was 18-3. We were down. You put one of those in the end zone, and it's 18-10. It's a one-score football game.
Up until the fourth quarter, this was very much so in terms of drives a back-to-back game. Malden looked very strong offensively, like you just said. Penalties were holding them back, but I was kind of confused, yet I was interested in what we were doing in terms of the quarterbacks and how we were playing the quarterbacks, because starting out, Mitchell Norman been out for the whole season. He came in first game against the Gaffney Indians, and usually we thought we would see him at the slot. Last year he played quarterback with bringing in the transfer Joe Owens. Thought we were going to see him in the slot, what he played sophomore year, but instead he was playing quarterback for this flex formation, this new formation that they introduced, and also played a little bit in the I formation and some of these more running-based formations that Malden was running. and he seemed like he was the go-to guy, and he played the majority of the first half with the exception of like 2 drives.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and then he even played most of the second half too, except Jeb had, I think, a drive in there, and Joe had the last 2. But I think the biggest thing is Mitchell's very smart in terms of like football IQ. Like he knows what all is going on, especially when you have formation like the flex and you have all the moving parts. They're calling guys in motion. It was like an extreme version of Georgia Tech almost. Like it was just so many moving parts, so many triple options, so many just regular handoffs with new blocking schemes. I think the biggest thing is why they trust him so much is he really knew that offense. And don't get me wrong, Mitchell Norman's a very talented player overall, and I can't wait to see what all they use him for. But it just seemed like, we talked about it during the game, it seemed like they almost milked it a bit too much. They used it a bit too much when you could have, how it was effective and it was moving the football, yes, but then switch and throw in Joe and just go almost, I don't want to say 2-quarterback system, but go back and forth. Because Joe can throw a football. It's plain and simple. And he's been playing very well overall this season. And I think this could have been a huge opportunity for him, especially to catch them off guard, catch Gaffney off guard during that game.
I definitely agree with you. I think there should have been a little bit more variation with the quarterbacks. But, I mean, well, when we talk about what happened with the quarterbacks is Mitch started. Jeb got I would say he got a good 4 or 5 drives in total, not necessarily long drives where he marched downfield, but he got for 4 or 5 drives. And then Joe Owens at the very tail end of the game got in for the last 2 drives, and one of those drives was a touchdown drive, which was the only time that Malden was in the end zone. So when you saw what Joe Owens did, maybe it was unexpected because of what happened earlier in the game. But when you saw what Joe Owens did, you're kind of questioning why wasn't he in earlier in the game? Could Malden have had a chance if they would have put him in the third quarter?
I think it definitely would have kept the defense on their toes because, like we mentioned earlier, the biggest thing that Gaffney defense seems to sag off a lot on their receivers and just depend on their receivers. Just they'll give them the space. They'll give you like a simple completion, but they won't give you over-the-top stuff. And I think it really changed the whole defense for Gaffney. They started coming closer to the line. They started packing the box. And I think if you could have thrown in some more passes, even from Mitchell, I think if he would have thrown the ball downfield a little bit more, they could have really opened up and had a little bit more versatile. But before we go on to our next segment, we'll give you just, this kind of blew my mind just how close it was. Total plays was 58-56 in favor of Gaffney. They only ran 2 more plays than us. First downs, they had 1 more than us, 16-15. Penalties, we led that category actually. We had 2 more penalties, but actually for a few less yards, we had 26 less yardage of penalties, and we actually had the ball for almost 2.5 minutes longer than they did. A lot of that was that formation. So I thought that was really interesting to just see like how close it was when you look at especially the stats of the game. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to try a little something new here. We talked about the NBA in our first episode a little bit. Of course, I'm a Knicks fan, Portland Trailblazers fan, but we thought upcoming season, we got a random team generator right here. We click a button, a random team's going to pop up. I guess do you want the first one? Give you first team?
You know, I'll take the first team.
You'll take the first team? So you're going to generate a team. You're going to explain why they're going to win the NBA championship. And it doesn't have to be this year. If it's like a way rebuild, like the one that we were trying it out and the Dallas Mavericks came up, Dallas Mavericks are not going to win the championship this year. Let's just say that. I'll throw in my Vegas odds 0. Okay, but here we go. First team. Kind of interesting. The Washington Wizards.
Washington Wizards. Well, that's definitely a team that you have to look at and you have to dissect because you look at that and they have the John Wall, Bradley Beal. But what you have to look at is where they build what do they build their team around. And that I don't expect Bradley Beal to stay a whole lot longer in this franchise. Yeah. I think as soon as his contract ends, I think he's gone. I think for this team to possibly go to an NBA championship, they're definitely up there when you consider good teams in the East.
Especially the East.
Yeah, especially the East, where you have the Celtics, the Raptors, and I would put the Washington Wizards right there. I mean,
right there with
the
76ers.
But I would put the Washington Wizards right up there. I mean, they're definitely in the top half of that playoff grouping in terms of who's going. So I think when you look at that, John Wall, incredible athlete, incredible point guard. I argue that he's one of the best in the league. I think he's more athletic than what we look to be as some of the best point guards in the league. I think he's an insane athlete. And when you look at him as a leader and leading a team, you have to build a team around him in order to get somewhere. I think this system with Bradley Beal, I think free agency and you bring some more people in, like Klay Thompson, most likely not going to go there. Rumors of him going to the Lakers and to other teams like that. But if you go and you target somebody like Klay Thompson, who's such a role player, or you go and you target somebody else like you target Blake Griffin once his contract is
that would be a huge piece.
That gives them an edge in having more, like a more spread out roster, because right now you're looking at John Wall, Bradley Beal, point guard, shooting guard, and then what else do you have?
I'm gonna say what's like Kelly Oubre.
What else do you have?
I'm gonna say the biggest thing I like you're saying, like I really like the biggest thing about the Wizards is I think when you're analyzing teams, you almost look stars basically. I think Bradley Beal and John Wall are both those stars. I think John Wall's a bit higher than Bradley Beal, but Bradley Beal's not. I'd consider him a star in the league, and I think that's when you look in the East. You look at teams like Boston; they're up there because it's Kyrie. They got Gordon Hayward. They got Jason Tatum now, who's going to be a star. Like I think when you look at stars, when you have two, it's just a big thing, and that's why that's a whole nother topic. But I think that's why Giannis and the Bucks have struggled. It's just him,
because
and that's huge for the Wizards.
But I don't think it's necessarily getting all these stars. I think it's finding these key role players to go and complement John Wall. And because when you look at the competition in the East, it's very much similar to the West. People argue West is a better conference, but when you look at the top teams, it's very similar in terms of how they stack up against each other. So you have the Boston Celtics, like you just talked about, a more stacked team. They're younger, but they're more of a stacked team. You look at the 76ers, more of a stacked team. I would argue that the Raptors are kind of getting up there as well. When you look at Kawhi Leonard, you look at
that's what I'm talking stars.
Kyle Lowry, but the thing is that you have to go and you have to fill this roster.
And I agree with you. That's exactly why Boston's the biggest threat. Is you look at the guys coming off the bench too.
But I think when you look at the West though, on these teams that are really good, when you look at the Rockets, when you look at the Warriors, you could argue that they're all stars. I don't think that they're all stars everywhere that they go. I think that Klay Thompson, I don't think he could go and play on the Orlando Magic and turn them into an amazing team, because he's not a star like Kevin Durant or Stephen Curry is. I think he's a great role player. He's an amazing role player, amazing shooter, but he's not the kind of player that's going to go and he's going to lead a team to a champion on his own. To be honest, that's nobody nowadays, because I have a whole problem with that. But when you look at Klay Thompson, he's an amazing shooter and he's an amazing role player. If you put him with somebody like John Wall, they're going to complement each other well, and that's going to be a great team right there.
I say definitely Wizards. I could see them making some moves and being big, but okay, let's see my team. Hit the random. This one's pretty interesting. It's the Timberwolves, the Minnesota Timberwolves. So right now, I think this could be a huge year for them. Of course, I think they still have Jimmy, and he's came out and said that he doesn't want to play there. So that's going to be really interesting. I can't wait to see what's going to happen this year. I don't think this is the year for them. I think the Timberwolves can be really good, though. I really like Towns. I really like Wiggins. And I like Butler. But like I said, I don't think he's going to end up staying there. But I think that's the biggest thing about that is that's opening up some space. Jimmy Butler is making a whole lot of money. And somebody's got to pay that contract. And right now, they go by the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I think one of the biggest things for them is they're going to see who do you replace Jimmy Butler with? Because like I was saying, stars, Jimmy Butler is definitely one of them. And, I'm a Knicks fan, so I hope Kyrie, Jimmy Butler, Madison Square Garden, can't wait to see it. But what my biggest thing, though, with the Timberwolves is in the West, you got two options. You could either try to beat the Warriors in their style, I feel like the Rockets, yes, they're playing ISO, but they're trying to spread the floor and shoot threes. I think the Timberwolves, they're really built for that. And I think when you look at Karl Anthony Towns can shoot, you look at Andrew Wiggins can shoot, you look at, now they got Derrick Rose, he can't shoot, but everybody else can shoot on their team. And they've got a good nucleus of guys and a great coach. I really like Tom Thibodeau. I can't remember his first name. Thibodeau, whatever. But I think the Timberwolves could be one to definitely watch out for as as the season goes on, of course, they snuck into the playoffs, of course, last year, beating the Nuggets in one of the craziest games I've ever seen, the last game of the season, game number 82. You beat the Nuggets, you're in. You lose the Nuggets, you're out. And I thought that was great for basketball. So I guess it's time. Got to talk about this game. We got a game on Friday again, back to Friday Night Lights. Can't wait for it. Malden Mavs taking on the Riverside Warriors. We've met a whole lot against these guys, 28 times all time. Mavericks lead that series 18-10. And the biggest thing is recent domination by the Mavericks. They've won 9 of the last 10 games against these Riverside Warriors. And it's going to be a packed game, no doubt about it, because of the tailgates that are going to be going on. Their student government is going to be running tailgates for each of the classes. And it's going to be a crazy atmosphere, and I can't wait for it back at Freeman Field.
Oh, yeah, great atmosphere this week. Talking about the tailgate all week, where you have all the classes come together and they have their respective class tailgates. But I think because of that, you're going to have a great atmosphere, a great turnout for Malden, something that I think this team needs, especially after coming off and being 1-3. You definitely need a great atmosphere to try and help you and develop your team more. And I think that's going to be key in this game is developing and getting this team, because I said this back in the JL Man game, you need Joe Owens to get hot. You need him to get on fire and to not stop for the rest of the season. This game needs to be something where we see him go and we see him catch a spark, and then he goes and he runs with it for the rest of the season. I think, but because when you look at games, this is going to be the game to do it. Up on the road, we have Boiling Springs, Burns. Back at home, we have Spartanburg. Then we go back on the road for Dorman, and then Hillcrest. If you know anything about high school football in the upstate, that's a tough stretch of games.
I'm going to say the biggest thing is I like to look before a season, any level, of course. We're Clemson fans. I like to look at your gimme games. And I think when you look at the games that you should win, I think this is like a must-win for the Mavericks, because it's one of those, like you're saying, there aren't very many gimme games the rest of the season. I don't think there's a single one. I think Boiling Springs is a lot of these are very possible wins for the Mavericks when you look at, I think, Boiling Springs and Spartanburg. I think you can hang around with a Burns and a Dorman. Hillcrest, I really think the Mavericks have a good shot at. But when you look at this region, it's not going to be easy, and you already have a lot of teams that are winning football games. But the biggest thing is, I really do think it is anybody's region. And the biggest thing is, all of those teams are just going to start beating each other up, because basically we're like the Western Conference if we had 8 Warriors. Because it's just all of these teams, and the Mavericks, I feel like you sneak out you play 7 games in region. If you could sneak out even a 3-4 record, a 4-3 record, just right there, you sneak in, because Burns is playing the same schedule. Burns has to play against Dorman and Hillcrest and Spartanburg, and they have to play Boiling Springs. But they have to play against all these tough teams as well, and I think they're all going to beat each other up. I do think there's going to be like that one team that sneaks out of there, maybe undefeated or something, that is just one of those top teams in the state that we don't know about quite yet.
Well, right now, the 2 undefeated teams in our region, that is Dorman and Gaffney,
one
of which we played already.
I'm going to say, and both of those are on the road for us as well. We just played that one on the road, and we got Dorman on the road second to last week of the season. But I think, you know how crazy it would be if the Mavericks can go in, they're 2-4, 3-3 in the region, and we have Freeman Field packed, Orange out, Malden versus Hillcrest for a spot in the playoffs. I can't wait.
I think that
I think it's very. I think the biggest thing I was going to say. That's the thing I'm saying. It's very possible, and I think. But for this Riverside team, I think when you look at it, you want to talk about gimme games. They don't have a single one on their schedule. Yeah. I think when you talk about a program that's really trying to find its way back, and they're definitely slowly improving. I'd say when you look at guys like Andrew Brown, is a great athlete. He's really done great things for their team, and I think this season a really tough one, and just an unfortunate one for them region-wise, because we're talking about how tough it is for us. Like we said, the Mavericks have done really well against Riverside in the past, and now they're having to play against this region that's unbelievable. I think it's one of the tougher ones I think it's one of the toughest ways you could have arranged it at all. I think the only way you could have made it harder for me is throw T.L. Hanna in with us.
Yeah.
But other than that, I really don't know another way to make it harder. But that's going to do it for us, though. We'll be out there 7:30. We're going to be kicking off from Freeman Field, Malden versus Riverside. But that's going to do it here. Episode 3 of Garage Talks. We'll see you next time on the Malden High School Broadcast Network.